Namaste to all of you. A very warm welcome to this evening's call. Friends, at the outset, let me on my personal behalf and on behalf of Pragya Bharati wish all of you, your family and friends a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. May this Ganesh Chaturthi bring us peace and going forward, let us all be in a safer position from this Chinese Wuhan coronavirus, and by Bhagavan Ganesh's blessings, hopefully, we should be able to revive our economy and people should be getting back on track. Friends, today it gives us great pleasure to invite Aparna Malaviya ji to our call today evening. In continuation of what we did a couple of days back with Dr. Abdullah, today we have Aparna Malaviya ji. But before I formally introduce her and today's topic, I would request my colleague Balaji Garu to kindly introduce our organization and set the tone starting, so that those of you who are coming for the first time would have some understanding of what organization we represent. Balaji Garu?
Sure. Namaskarams to all. Jai Shri Ram. And a happy Ganesh Chaturthi to all of you. May Lord Ganesha remove all kinds of obstacles in your every aspect of your life. It is my privilege to introduce our organization Pragya Bharati to all, and for those who have joined the webinar for the first time. Pragya Bharati has started 29 years ago and will complete 3 successful decades shortly. It was founded to provide Bharatiya or a national perspective in the intellectual arena. Few details about founding members of our Pragya Bharati. Our founder and current chairman, Dr. Sri Tripuraneni Hanuman Chaudhary Garu, who is just 90 years young. He was the former chairman of BSNL and an erstwhile IT advisor to the Unified Andhra Pradesh, and also a Padma Shri awardee. It was the inspiration of Ram Madhav ji, who is the current National General Secretary of BJP and the founding director of India Foundation, which has kindled the birth of Pragya Bharati. Other gentlemen, B.S. Sharma Garu, who is a pharmaceutical professional, retired now. The other 2 gentlemen, Sri Vakapati Panduranga Rao Garu and Sri Harihara Sharma Garu, who are unfortunately no more with us, were the founding members and signatories. Madam Nirmala Sitharaman was also our General Secretary for Pragya Bharati before she opted for a political career. Pragya Bharati has conducted several seminars, conferences, workshops over a span of 28-29 years, where stalwarts like Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, L.K. Advani ji, Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Sushma Swaraj ji, Arun Jaitley ji, Jaya Jaitley ji, and ex-CM of AP, Sri Chandrababu Naidu also spoke on our podium. Few other international speakers like Konrad Elst, Mr. Gauthier, Michel Danino, David Frawley, Balraj Madhok have spoken from our podium. Since last 20 years, we have been successful in publishing a monthly magazine in English, which we request you to subscribe to same. It's called Bharatiya Pragya. It just costs 500 rupees for a 2-year subscription. And it has nothing but facts and a historical review for all of you. Pragya Bharati also gives out an annual award in the name of Pragya Puraskar for eminent people who have contributed for Bharat in the international space, intellectual space. The latest recipient being Dr. Satish Reddy Garu, who is currently the scientific advisor to our defense minister. Earlier, we have awarded this particular award to Chairman Veda Bharati, Sri Remalla Avadhandu Garu. That's one of the recognized ones we can talk about. And we also have a few social media assets like Twitter, Facebook page, Instagram, Telegram, YouTube. We request all of you to subscribe to these social media assets which we have, like, and then possibly subscribe and be active. And you can also stay in touch with us. And you can also watch these programs, which are uploaded after the recording is done, for your review and repeat viewing also. For those who want to connect with us going forward, you can send us a mail to info@pragnabharati.in. That's all from me. I request Giridhar Mamariji Garu to take over from here.
Maharaj Garu, thank you. Thank you so much. And friends, Pragna Bharati would like to thank all of you who have contributed and given donations graciously. After we requested all of you to help us with financially as well. The link to donating us is available on our webpage, and our host will be posting the link also in this talk as well. So kindly do donate liberally to us so that we will be able to continue this war of intellectual nationalism. Thank you all for those who have already contributed. Friends, today we are privileged to have Dr. Aparna Malaviya ji. She is now talking to us from a place called Mandi in Himachal Pradesh. And again, from the town of Mandi, you have to go a few kilometers away where there is an IIT campus. From there she's talking. This is one of the most picturesque IIT campus I've ever seen. Lovely nestled between beautiful mountains and lush green valleys. And so we envy her, place where from she's coming compared to the cities and urban concrete jungles we are all in today. Dr. Malaviya is a researcher of forced migration of refugees from Afghanistan. She has actually worked among the refugees in Delhi, in various parts of India, and she has documented their travels, their travails, their ethnic related issues, their cultural issues, and she has done a wonderful research on that. Having done her PhD in India, she was also awarded Fulbright Fellowship in 2018 to do her postdoctoral research among same Afghan immigrants in the USA. Her postdoctoral research attempts to explore the socio-spatial politics of Afghan diaspora in the backdrop of special immigration policy of the USA. So, be it India or be it in the USA, she has done quite an amount of study with regard to the Afghan, diaspora and how, especially the migrants who have moved out of Afghanistan. Of course, she has encountered Afghan Muslims as well in a study. Probably she'll be talking some things about them as well. As we all know that a strife-torn country like Afghanistan needed help, and India always stood up to Afghanistan as a friend, including Hamid Karzai. Many of their leaders came and studied here in India in several of our universities. Hamid Behram, who was there on our call from IFLU, Hyderabad, he's also on the call today. He's a student from IFLU, Hyderabad. So we hosted a lot of students, even among Muslims. But then the plight of Hindus is so tragic there that the Islamic forces of Taliban or ISI unleashed people or whoever it is have unleashed great mayhem, and so they were forced to migrate. Just about a few decades back, they were a decently sizable number. Today, they are hardly in their maybe in hundreds. So this is the fate. And no wonder India has introduced this CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, which also covered minorities from Afghanistan. So friends, Dr. Abdullah Hawaid, who had come from Afghanistan the other day, he spoke about certain history of Afghanistan and politics about it, and of course, the geostrategic importance and the India-Afghan relationships. Today, Dr. Malaviya is going to focus exclusively on the minorities of Afghanistan and their cultural moorings, including the connection they have with the temples and holy places in Afghanistan, like Asa Mai. They call it as Asa Mai. It's a temple. It's a mountain in Afghanistan. Of course, that has been destroyed long back. Still, there is another temple which is built in downtown Kabul today. So she's going to talk about all that. And this is a topic which is very important for all Bharatiyas, because for us, we should never lose connection to our civilizational roots that Bharat had spread across all our region, what we may call it as Akhand Bharat. So friends, it gives me great pleasure to invite Aparna ji to make a presentation and enlighten us with regard to the subject of today's discussion with regard to Afghan Hindus and their existential struggle. Aparna ji?
So shall I start, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so namaskar to everyone and namaskar, Jai Shri Ram, and a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. So thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. Please give me there are a couple of requests that whenever I will request, I have sent my a couple of maps to info Prajna Bharati. So I'll just be needing in between the presentation, not now, to just help in the flow. Although today I am talking about Afghan Hindus and their existential crisis, and I don't think that I'll be able to do justice with the Afghan stories unless I talk about unless I give a background picture. So how I started. So just I did my MSc in population sciences from IPS Mumbai. I just read an article about Afghan refugees, just a very short article, and that appeared in EPW. And that time, I'm giving this background for a reason, and for a reason that we all the whosoever are associated with Prajna Bharati, we share that reason. So I just read an article, and I was a student just doing demography and statistics, and I was surprised because that time I, along with many other people who are in academia, they think that we read newspapers, we analyze, and we think that we know a couple of things. And during my population sciences years, I read about, I mean, my growing years also, I knew about Tibetan refugees. I knew about their struggle. I knew in my family, I mean, there was, stories about how the entire, Indian political establishment stood for Tibetan cause and for right reasons. And then when I was growing up, there was the time for Tamil refugees. And here I was wondering, why I don't know about Afghan refugees. It was just a very short article written by Ashish Bose. And what stuck, I was just like, there was a couple of paragraphs about Afghan Sikh refugees. It didn't talk about Afghan Hindus though. Afghan Sikhs also. And I was wondering, are there Sikhs in Afghans? Are there Sikhs, are there Hindus in Afghans? And are there in such a number that they form a refugee group? And if they are at all refugee group, why didn't I hear about them? Because I considered myself to be an aware person who was well acquainted with the current affairs. And I knew that 1979 happened. The quote-unquote so-called, I have objections, but they say that the academia, the dominant Western academia say it, Russian invasion of Afghanistan, but it's kind of, we can frame it differently. So Russian intervention, it was opposed by Mujahideens. So the Afghan migration started from 1979, post 1979, of all the ethnicities, irrespective of the religion. And Afghans of all these ethnicities, Afghan Muslims, which is a very heterogeneous group ethnically, so they consist of Pashtuns, Tajik, Hazaras, a few Uzbeks. So they also came. In fact, I met a couple of people, those who belong to that time, those who were living, in India since then. And I'm talking about Afghan Muslims. And I met, of course, Hindus and Sikhs. So having said that, the first migration of Afghans started right since 1979. And then it was not a continuous process. The migration happened as it was controlled by, the way civil, political disturbance, it followed the ups and downs of, Afghanistan's political civil disturbance. So 1979, that migration that happened, that started in 1979, it just went on until 84, 85, 86. And those who migrated, who could migrate that time, they largely belonged to the comparatively richer class. And so majority of the population who came to India, they are now resettled. Resettled is a term, like we can say that they have been naturalized. Naturalized means, in a very like layman term, we can say that they have got citizenship. And the majority of the population, it is well off, and they are well settled, and they are like, I'll be just showing the map of Delhi. So there's a greater Kailash, which is very which is considered to be a posh area in Delhi. So they are like mostly settled in that area. And then as the ups and downs keep happening in Afghanistan, so did the migration. So the next wave followed in 1992, and it never stopped. And I was wondering that why I don't have any sort of a concrete research paper, a full-fledged informative article about the Afghans. So I think the forceful and deliberate denial to these marginalized voices was first emotional reason to take up those issues. And I did my PhD from IIT Bombay. I'll not take the name, but initially there was question, why do you want to work on Afghan Hindus and Sikhs? After all, they're Hindus and Sikhs, so why there should be any problem? So, and I think me and all of us, I think we have to counter that narrative academically. So that was the second objective. The first objective was to know answer the question of the silence that existed both in the newspapers and academia. And the second was to really explore how they become refugees. And through onset of that journey, I came to know about the rich and a vibrant and a very rich history of Afghan Hindus, and a vibrant community, how vibrant community they are. So with that, very little, I'm sorry, it's not a little background, it's a bit of elongated background. I just request if we can see the map of Afghanistan. Yeah, so in between that period, then we'll see the map. It's there in the presentation. So when I entered, I think I would like my viewers to just note two very important institutional. I don't want to go into detail because of the couple of issues and political and sociological debates about that. So I'll really not go into detail because I really want to talk about the very objective, factual, realities and connect it with the CA. But we have to keep in mind two very concrete things. A, India as such until now, and for good reasons, Indian state does not have a refugee policy because we have historical and cultural reasons not to have them. Despite that, India has been, we all know that India has been, receiving and supporting and giving asylum to a lot of, foreigners from all over the country. And since the 1947, although we call them refugees, we have been receiving population from in our eastern border and western border. So we have received after 1947 happened. So can we just go to the second slide? Yes, thank you. Yeah, the third one is better. So I'll just take one more minute to elaborate. So India doesn't have a refugee policy, although we have received Tibetan refugees, and we went to the extent that the Indian state did establish Tibetan government in exile in Dharamshala, which is just a 4 hours drive from my place in Mandi. So, and then we heard a lot about refugees, which was at a time such a complex issue that I guess it was such a politically complex issue that India lost its the then ex-prime minister. So that kind of political voice to support Afghan was never ever in India. Why I'm saying that, because of my own, because of my commitment to maintain secrecy and maintain confidentiality to my Afghan respondent, I would like to just, convey that I have, I'm basically an ethnographer. So my findings are based on inferences that I draw from the oral narratives as well as discourse analysis. I am based on government, I do analysis of the government policy, and then I try to, infer what is the story. So many Afghan, quote unquote, I hate that term refugee, but the Afghan Sikhs and Hindus said that although during the Narasimha Rao government period, it was easier to kind of get access to India because the visa norms were really, they were made flexible in terms of that the one entire family and entire joint family of 25 to 30%, they were permitted entry just on one passport. So, and that time, I guess Pakistan also supported in terms of giving passage through the, that road route through that POK. And later it was closed. So then only people who could afford journey through flights, they could come to India. But more or less, the visa norms were flexible. Apart from just providing flexible visa, Indian state did not do anything, and mind you, anything for that really vulnerable community. Now this is one background. So India does not have a refugee policy. We act on case basis. That's we call case basis. So we have provided refugee status to Tibetans. We have provided refugee status to Tamil refugees. And we are having, by the way, refugees from all, in the UNS, under the UNHCR category, we have refugees from Iraq, from Iran, Palestine. They're not in huge chunk. They're not huge chunk of population. They're still, and of course, we have refugees from UNHCR refugees from Myanmar. So the second background, which is very important to understand in terms of, understand the struggle of Afghan refugees, Afghan Hindus and Afghan Sikhs, is to understand that since India does not have a policy, so all the asylum seekers, as well as all the asylum seekers, let me tell, so all the people who really seek asylum, they are given asylum and then the refugee status based on their perceived vulnerability by the UNHCR, which is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and it has office in Delhi as well as in, I guess, Chennai, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So the UNHCR, so Afghan refugees come under the category of UNHCR refugees. So how does the UNHCR work? It just, what to say, there's a refugee status determination process. So a person will be given refugee status. So what does the status will do? It will determine his or her access to certain basic facilities, just 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per month, and that has to be extended per year, and that's a very complex process. So why I'm emphasizing that Afghans, all the Afghans were categorized as UNHCR refugees. They were not refugees under the Indian government policy. Now, the most important thing, when I started my doing my research in IIT Bombay, the question that was initially raised by one of the panel members, I'll not take the name, that why would Hindus and Sikhs be having any problem? After all, they are Hindus and Sikhs. I'd really like to share this with all my viewers, that UNHCR has a very, very unique, policy for the Afghan refugees. So what they have done, they have received the population in India, which they do in wherever they are placed, based on the based on the countries who are signatories to the United Nations Convention on 1951 Convention on Refugees. India is not a signatory, but still India recognizes UNHCR, and India is a signatory of so many international conventions and treaties, which under which India is obliged to, not to throw any person who is really having a genuine fear of, his or her life. So UNHCR works in India, and UNHCR recognizes Afghan refugees as UNHCR mandate refugees. But what the UNHCR does? So at one place, Indian government is not recognizing Afghans as refugees under Indian state policy. In UNHCR, what does it do? UNHCR categorizes the Muslim population and Hindu Sikh population. So what it does, the Muslim population, they say they are ethnic Afghans. Mind you, Muslim Afghans are ethnic Afghans for UNHCR, and the rest of the population, the Afghan Hindus as well as the Afghan Sikhs, are Hindu Sikh Afghans. So how does this, why does it matter at all? This is very technical and technically very important, point to understand for all of us. I'll not go into theoretical debate and all. So I'll just briefly share with you what does it do. So I have called it the politics of differential categorization and imposition of categories. So I'll just leave the theoretical aspect and just talk you rough facts. That what does this differential treatment, formation of two categories of refugees mean? So I have already told you that UNHCR, how does it work? So UNHCR, whomsoever is recognized, whichever group is recognized as refugees, which has its own complex process of status determination, UNHCR gives them support, very basic support. It provides them training, some basic English, language training, and then skill development programs are organized for them. Basic minimum support based on the expenditure expectation in the respective host countries. So they are giving a very minimal survival support. So which was when I was conducting fieldwork. By the way, I stayed in Delhi for almost 18 months in phases, not continuous 18 months, but I came in different. I used to come from Mumbai to Delhi. So in different time periods, so that I can have a sense of their community life and all the different months, and I'll just explain later about my methodology. So coming back to the differentiation of two categories, the ethnic Afghans and Hindu Sikh Afghans, two categories. So those who are recognized as ethnic Afghans, they are supported for third-party settlement. Third-party settlement is that those who are not aware of this term, I think most of the people might be aware, but those who are not, for them, I'll just explain it in a very simple manner. So what is third-party settlement? So now, how does the UNHCR work? It's like there are hundreds of countries, those who are signatory to the United Nations Convention, the 1951 Convention for the Protection of Refugees and Asylum Seekers. So based on that, United Nations sends the refugees in a third party. For example, an Afghan or maybe a Rohingya or maybe refugee from Iraq, they are, they have got asylum in India or in Pakistan or in Iran, okay? And then they stay there for 5 or 6 or 10 years or 15 years, based on how much time the UN agency takes to, to process their case. And then the UNHCR sends them for permanent refugee status in a third country. That is called third party settlement. Why it is important? Because a third party settlement somehow ensures a permanent residency of that particular refugee, permanent refugee status, and then ultimately translate in due course of time in citizenship, in getting citizenship. So in fact, what has unfortunately happened that for a lot of refugees, because of the turbulence, because of the civic strife in Afghanistan, and as well as in many other countries, wherever there is violence and ethnic events of ethnic cleansing. So people really cannot stay there normally, cannot live their life, cannot live their life normally. So they basically migrate. They do migrate. That's called the forced migration. And then they are just dying to get, third party settlement. So it's not easy to get third party settlement. So what has happened that the moment I started interrogating more and more, I find that the Afghan Sikhs and Hindu population, they feel cheated. And this is, I'm talking about, the pre-CAA scenario. Now imagine a population which is, staying in India since 1979 or just, post 1979, until now, they are not given refugee status by the Indian state. And the UNHCR as well. UNHCR say that, I have talked to the head of the UNHCR in Delhi a couple of times, and they just come with the assumption that they are, business and they're successful business community and they're Sikhs and they're Hindus. So that's why we don't give them support for third party asylum. So my, of course, I tend to feel them as my community. So what they feel. But the Afghans feel that, I'll just phrase this in Hindi. So, हम इधर आए थे अपना देश समझकर, हमको यहाँ से भी कोई support नहीं मिला, और हमें ये बाहर भी नहीं भेजते UN वाले. So we considered India to be our natural homeland and motherland, because we thought that we were always, we heard stories from our forefathers. Our forefathers were coming here to Haridwar. India was our religious. So many accounts are just so many there. I have so many narratives, filled with, how they considered India to be this religious homeland and, dharmic homeland and homeland for, they had a connection. Although they still proudly feel that they are Afghans, but they still felt connection and they thought that, going to India would be a natural abode for them. But they were denied a respectful, a dignified, and a genuine recognition of their plight and any pragmatic solution. And then they felt that they are being discriminated against. They didn't have any hard feelings for their Muslim fellow, but they just said that, for everyone, it was for all the Afghan, all the UNHCR refugees, be it from Myanmar, African refugees, so many countries from Africa were there and they are still here in India. And Iraq, Iran, Palestine. So they all were considered eligible for third-party settlement, but Afghans were not considered eligible for third-party settlement. So only those Afghans, and by the way, Afghans are spread more than India. The Afghan, Sikh, and Hindu population, they're spread across all the continents, I would say, all the 5 continents. So they are in Russia, they are in Canada, they are in the US, they are in Australia, they are in France, they are in Germany, they are in all the European countries, Western as well as Eastern. But of course, their number is more in Western European countries. There are so many Afghans in Germany, Netherlands. Of course, US, I have been there, so I know. So that's another background. So Yeah, I'm so sorry because I'm before coming to just Hindu and Sikh thing, I needed to talk about this, institutional thing, because unless and until we understand this background, we will not be able to understand the actual plight of our Afghan brothers and sisters, and then we will not be able to understand and counter and address the problem of deniability of voices, the deniability and suppressed, marginalized, and suppression and marginalization of voices, both by institutions as well as our political circle. So yeah, so here I'll just need a couple of more minutes to come exclusively come to Afghan Hindus, but I have to talk about Afghan Sikhs because of the specific context of Afghan Hindus and Sikhs. Say, when I started my fieldwork, I didn't know anyone. So it was just an exploratory, because I was exploring this for the first time. So in that I have to do everything from scratch, even how to get access to Afghans. So I was, after 3 and 4 months of my field stay and meeting different people and finding out connections, I met with Khalsa Diwan Welfare Society, and it's very important to understand. Although the name might appear Khalsa Diwan, Khalsa like Khalsa Panth, we associated, and of course it is associated with the great Sikh Sikh Dharma. But Khalsa Diwan Welfare Society is the very prominent and very important and one of the key community and cultural organization established by and established for both the Afghan, Sikhs and Hindu community. So they don't discriminate. So that's it's very important to understand why I really want to talk about I think 3-4 minutes about Afghan Sikhs also. Because the way I have understood until the fieldwork, I have done my fieldwork within Delhi. It was spanned until like 2 and 3 years of my time. Like I went there in 2009 and 10 and 11, and then again in 13 and 14, just, for 2 months and 15 months, I just divided my time like that. So there were 2 organizations. The key important organization is Khalsa Diwan Welfare Society. It's very, very significant in terms of, there was Akali Kaur Singh Gaur, Akali Kaur Singh. So he was a Sikh, a Khalsa Sikh. He, during the pre-independent India, he went to Afghanistan from India. And Akali Kaur Singh ji, he has tried to establish Khalsa Diwan Society there in Afghanistan, in Jalalabad in 1929. And I think that event was very, very significant in terms of, converting a lot of people, especially amongst the, of course, Hindu population, to domain Sikhism. So the onset of actually after the Guru Nanak Dev's Yatra, the second major important event in the expansion of Sikhism was the establishment of this Khalsa Diwan group in Jalalabad. Why it was important? Because it was, although this was Khalsa Diwan, but this was the only, the only important organization that become very, very important for the cultural and religious life of both the Afghan Sikhs and Hindus. So that organization, apart from helping Sikhs and Hindu population, that organization was very important. So they organized a 7-day festival, which was very important in the cultural and political life of Afghanistan. So they're like people used to come from all the corners of Afghanistan in Jalalabad, Sultanpur, and they held 7 days festival. So incidentally, coming back to the Afghans' journey in India, what they say, we didn't have anybody. No organization specifically no Hindu organization come forward to support us, no political leader, but we just, we gathered, we just, when we just took some time of 6 months and 1 year to be on our feet. We did everything. We even like the many business person, I'm not saying all, but there were so many business, rich person belonging to rich families and, good, having good business background back in Afghanistan. They opened rarely, carts. They sold foods and they worked in some as laborers and in someone's shop. So what Khalsa Diwan does, that it became very prominent. It was established, I guess, in 2001. Yeah, it became very prominent in providing a platform that can cater to the very basic need of all the Afghan Sikhs and Hindu community. So what they do, that they have a very organized setup. So those who are, newly coming Afghan migrants, so they help them in providing a home. Just for, someone will provide home, and okay, you don't give money and you just be here, you seek some some opportunity, some job opportunity, and they also help the children for the education. And they have beautifully, their organization is just amazing, the way they perform, the way they work, because I have observed them for a good amount of 1 year. So I have been just, going there and observing, that's it. So what we call, participant observation. So I was staying in Tilak Nagar. So I was just saying, so how beautifully they have organized and self promoted their resettlement in India. So without anyone's support. So the Khalsa Diwan worked for resettlement from scratch to wherever they are. And mind you, Afghan Hindu and Sikh refugees, not all, but the community that has started coming from 1979. I think now I'll just request someone from the team to go back to go to the slide while I talk. So the Afghan Sikh and Hindu community, yes. This I'll just talk later. Slide number 2, which talks about their settlement in Delhi. The next one, yes, no, the next. The next. Okay. Okay, the previous slide. Okay, yeah. So if you can see, this is just a map of Delhi showing localities inhabited by Afghans. So basically, I have already shared that the earlier chunk of the population, those who were slightly of good background, and those who were traders and politicians. So they are largely, not all, but largely they are settled in southern Delhi, Greater Kailash and Hotchhas. But the population that started coming in 1992, so they are mostly, I'll say 90% of them are in Tilak Nagar. Can you see, a slightly western part of Delhi? So Tilak Nagar, Vikaspuri. Yes. So the dot with the pink line, the pink dot, which is Vikaspuri and Tilak Nagar, and then there is a region which crosses the boundary of Delhi, and it is Delhi. There's a Faridabad which is still, I guess, under Delhi NCR. It comes under Delhi NCR, the National Capital Region. So most of the population that come after 1992, including post 2001, they are settled in Tilak Nagar, Vikaspuri. They're very nearby. So mostly they form, largely, western, towards the western part of the Delhi. And Faridabad. Here is our Asa Mai temple. So I'll just briefly talk about the Tilak Nagar. So what Tilak Nagar and Vikaspuri, most of the field work that I conducted, I stayed in Tilak Nagar with them in the same locality where Khalsa Diwan is operating. as a key organization for the resettlement of refugees, of Afghan Hindu and Sikhs. So, yeah, I was staying in this area. So can I just request to go back to previous slide that talks about regions in Afghanistan? Yeah, that's fine. So I have talked about the political context of Afghan migration, political context in terms of India not, aggressively, not aggressively, even minimally supporting Afghans as a responsible state, and very, very casually treating the Afghan population. And then I have talked about the United Nations High Commissioner Refugees, which is the international UN body to cater to the need of refugees and asylums. I talked about the differential treatment. And then I have talked about how community and cultural organization, how important they become for a self-motivated effort of resettlement of Afghans. And it's very fascinating because Afghans, when you'll go to Delhi, now almost all the, there are some portion of very prominent economic hubs in Delhi. So there's Ghaffar Market, which is a very famous Ghaffar Market in Western Delhi. So they have almost occupied Ghaffar Market. Initially, they started to work as a helper in Indian shop, and now they have become the master of those shop. And likewise, Afghan Sikhs and Hindus, they have shops. In fact, they have a hold over the Krishna Market in Chandni Chowk. The Far Market, Krishna Market, as well as Lajpat Nagar is very, very important, and is, I will say, an economic. They work as economic. They have emerged as economic markers, important markers in the economic landscape of Afghans. Taking my story further, I would like all of us to just, pay, it's a very interesting thing about Afghan Hindus as well Sikhs, that how do they identify themselves? They identify themselves both as Afghans, Hindus, vis-a-vis Sikh, but they have a very strong identification with their respective regional identities. So initially I was really confused what does that mean? Because whenever I talk to any, Hindu or a Sikh Afghans, their identity in terms of, they'll say, I'm a Hosti, or I'm a Ghazniji, or I'm a Charakari, or I'm a Laghmani. So as I move further into my, because I couldn't find the explanation of these terms in any other, kind of historical documents about Afghans, because most of the, anthropological studies about the Afghans are largely on Muslim Afghans. Be it, there are 10, I guess, not less than hundreds, in terms of, I'm talking both in terms of books and available articles, but there's no much mention about the Afghan Hindus and Sikhs population. So there's just, I guess, a couple of, one PhD by Chitra Kur in Germany about Afghan Hindu population. Then there was an attempt by, I guess, Professor Oberoi to understand about the to understand the history of Afghan Sikhs, but it does not tell anything about the ethnic diversity of Afghan Sikhs and Hindus. So I think this is just purely my inferential conclusion, the inference about Afghan Hindus and Sikhs ethnicity. Why I'm making, so I'm claiming that there are different biradaris, and based on the regions of Afghanistan and special, dialect that they speak. And they are very strong, Afghan Hindus and Sikhs have a very strong sense of their regional identity also. So, the way we identify amongst ourselves, I guess, as, we are Bengali and we are Tamil and Telugu. So I have, discussed this with them, and they are also of the same region, that this, If they said that they are Ghazniji, so this means that they belong to the Ghazni region. If they say that they are Khosti, they belong to Khosti region. Can you see this? I have like highlighted the map, so you can see the Khost, Ghazni. You can see Kabul, so they will say we are Kabulis, and they'll say they are Kandharis, and they'll say Charakaris, so you can say somewhere Charakar also. So things like that. So there are I'll again say the name of those identities. So amongst the Afghan Sikhs and Hindus, there are people who claim that they are Kabuli Hindu, they are Kabuli, they are Charakari, they are Laghmani, they are Ghazniji, they are Khosti. So initially, I think but initially back in Afghanistan, they are kind of, endogamous groups. It's not that they differed very much in terms of their religious practices, because of course they were either practicing Hinduism or Sikhism, but they tend to marry, within like their Khosti group. Khosti would marry within a Khosti, but now that is kind of, is becoming slightly flexible when they have, come to Delhi. So that's very important. That also become important in terms of, in Tilak Nagar, from, I guess, since 2001 until 2015-16, because I have not been to Delhi, especially in that area, so I might be wrong, but until 15-16, there were 7 Gurudwaras founded by respective biradris. So they were Khosti Gurudwara. There was Gurudwara by Khostis and, Charakaris and Laghmanis. It's not that like, no one else would go there. In fact, in Afghan Gurudwaras, every Hindu will go, things like that. So this is about their regional identity. So I again, want to, request all of you to just, again come back to the point from where I started. And I started that I want to look deeper into I want to talk deeper about the community and cultural life. So why I talked about community life? Because these biradris were very important. Khalsa Diwan is very important in terms of, making a very significant, the only significant effort. Of course, there's another organization which is Afghan Hindu Sikh Welfare Organization, that is amongst the community that is not considered to have made such an important mark, although they have also done their bit. So Khalsa Diwan is very important. Then Asa Mai temple becomes important. And if I just can request some of the team member to go back to the region of Delhi, so I can show you regions, populations. So if you can see the pink dot, Faridabad, there is Asa Mai temple. So why this temple is very important? I'm sorry, I think I have like, it was in my previous camera. It's very, when I clicked the picture of Asa Mai from outside, because earlier they were also skeptical about, okay, don't click the picture, and I have to, be honest to the promise that I make with my respondents. So, because of their context, they were not always very, very, okay with clicking pictures. So I had very few pictures, although from Delhi, although I had some, but that somehow with this, I don't know, there's some technical issues, so I right now cannot share, but I'll just try my best to share the picture of Asa Mai temple in New York, Hicksville, but later. So why that Asa Mai temple is very important? So I just like to talk about the legend that is associated. That's what they say, that whenever I talked to any Afghan Hindu, 2 places were very important. Of course, they were going to Khalsa Diwan, and Afghan Sikhs also went to Asa Mai temple. And everybody in the Afghan community, Afghan Hindu and Sikh community, has a deep respect for Asa Mai. So I think even if you have a talk with 1 or 2 hours, you can hardly miss reference of Asa Mai. Such was the importance, and that made me wonder why. So what is that? Even like the carriers of Afghan Hindu, there's a name of Asa Mai. And whenever they will begin any secret task, or they will go to work, they will take the name with deep faith of Asa Mai. And the Afghan Hindus trust is that there's a secret flame in the hillocks of Kabul, in the cave, that is burning since 5,000 years, and no one could have stopped that. So wherever Afghans go, because Afghans, as I have said, that you name the continent and there are Afghans of all the ethnicities. There are Muslim Afghans and Afghan Sikhs and Hindus. But wherever Afghan Hindus have gone, they have established Asa Mai. And that itself tells why Asa Mai is very important. In fact, I was just listening to one of the narratives and listening to the interview of the head of Asa Mai Trust, in fact, Afghan Hindu and Sikh, Hindu Association in New York, Hicksville. And it was kind of a focus group discussion, which community members from both the communities. I told that, it's not like Afghan Hindus and Sikhs, they don't consider that they are very, very, different. When they all, if there's any marriage in Afghan Hindus family, they will go to Gurudwara. It's like if, Afghan Sikhs also, they, that's what I have seen. They go to Asa Mai temple. So what they said that it is our trust that because of Asa Mai's, it's a faith. It's our faith and our trust. We trust that it's because of the Asa Mai, so much has happened, but our temples, they have deteriorated because of, we couldn't keep them because we were not there. But because of her blessings, wherever we have gone, we have been successful in kind of, starting from scratch and establishing ourselves as proud communities. So it is just the blessings of Asa Mai. I can, if I can show the picture, although I don't have, there's an Asa Mai temple in Sanjay Colony in Faridabad. So I have been there almost 12-15 times because what Asa Mai Trust does, that likewise, when it was founded, the members of the community, they collect some very humble, donation based on their respective economic, status of community members. And every month, I think it used to happen on Wednesday when I was conducting field work. So there will be Jatha. So Hindus from, and Faridabad is quite a distance from by bus. And that time there was no metro, at least in that route. So I'm saying that, and it was amazing to explore this and to be with them in their journey. That every Wednesday, I guess it was third Wednesday of every month, all the community members, they would go to Asa Mai temple by bus. They will have kirtans and bhajans, both in Hindi. Hindi will be sung by, of course, the locally recruited priest, and Pashto. So they sing their Ramayan in Pashto. And there's the Pir Ratan, which I'll talk later. And there will be a good amount of people, so 500 to 600 people. And then they will disseminate whatever information regarding the citizenship, resettlement, or who is the newly joined members. They have to collect money for their to restart their life. So these are the kind of works that Asa Mai Trust also used to do. So, and the diasporic connection of this Asa Mai Mandir is very important because there is Asa Mai temple. I think that file could not be uploaded. I don't know why. I have made a list. Can you just, otherwise I will show this on my, thesis chapter. So can you go? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'll just request if Appendix 6 is visible. If not, then I'll just show it on my camera. I hope this is. I hope it's like. Is it visible? I have to like on my camera. Wait. Is this table visible?
Yeah, kind of, but it's a little difficult. But I think you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So I want to say that there is a list of temples and gurudwaras that are established all across across the world. So there's Asa Mai temple in Flushing, New York, and I have been to Asa Mai temple in. I've done my field work in Asa Mai temple, Asa Mai Hindu Association and temple in New York, Hicksville, and there's a Hindu community center. Of course, in Hicksville, where I was there, and there's Afghan Hindu temple in Hamburg, Germany, and Afghan temple in Essen, Germany, and Hariom Mandir in Cologne. All of them, they are established by Afghan Hindu as well as Afghan Sikh community. And there's so many gurudwaras. So, apart from the temple, the three crucial temple on the name of Asa Mai are Asa Mai temple in Hicksville, New York, and then this Asa Mai Mandir in Frankfurt, Germany, and Asa Mai in Netherlands. So that's in Stichting Asa Mai in Amsterdam, and in Frankfurt, it is established in January 20th, 2002. I'd like to just come back to read just a brief excerpt from one of the key founders of Asa Mai temple in Hicksville. So the gist of that excerpt is that why did they? That feeling and the unbreakable faith in Asa Mai is universal for Afghan Hindus as well as for Afghan Sikhs. So what it is saying that apart from the local legal requirements of having a cultural and religious organization in respective countries. In US, there are some certain terms and conditions that they have to follow. The only thing that the intention is to transmit the Afghan culture, to transmit the Hindu culture amongst, to their generations. So that's very important.
I'll just share the Asa Mai picture from Kohe Asa Mai in Kabul.
Yes.
I've just picked it up from the net.
Thank you, Girdalji. Thank you. Okay.
So this is the Asa Mai Jot. They call it Jot.
Yes.
This is from the Kohe Asa Mai.
Kohe Asa Mai, that's what.
And so this is the mountain on which this is supposed to be there. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
And if you can just, in continuation, if you can just show the picture from Asa Mai temple in Hicksville.
Yeah, that I think Dheeraj can show it. Dheeraj, if you have downloaded it, kindly share it. You go ahead, madam. Yeah, I think he will look it up.
Yes. So from Asa Mai, and that's the other important and I'll say indispensable aspect of Afghans' lives, Afghan Hindu life, I'll say, is their faith in Pir Ratan Nath. Pir Ratan Nath is like just, although I'm not an expert on Gorakhnath Shaiv tradition, so there are different, academically there are different, kind of opinions about the number of Siddha gurus in that tradition. So some say 5 or some say 9 even. So the very brief classification is there was Adinath, who is considered to be, I guess, the incarnation of Lord Shiva, and then, and kindly correct me if I'm wrong. So, because I'm really not an expert on the great Gorakhnath, the Nath Parampara. So that I really want to explore now as, in my upcoming project, because I'm fascinated by the way Afghans relate themselves with the Nath current. And that was very fascinating for me. So in the same way, Afghan Hindus talk about Asa Mai. So they will say Pir Ratan Nath ji, Kale Kamle Wali Baba. So as we learn in Nath Shav Parampara was there in Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan was separated just 70 years back in Afghanistan. In fact, the very interesting thing to note is that Pir Ratan Nath ji, because there are Adinath and Machendranath, and then Guru Gorakhnath, Balaknath ji, and Pir Ratan Nath ji. So the Pir Ratan Nath ji, he's also known as Harshri Nath ji. So most of the Afghan Hindus, they say Kale Kamle Wali Baba. Yes. Can you see this is expel? So when I went to okay, I think you have like this. I have not. Okay, this is from internet, I guess. Yeah, this is not that I sent. Anyways, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this. So when I went there, they were celebrating Basant Panchami. When I went to Hicksville, I went there for 3-4 days. So that day they were celebrating Basant Panchami. They have invited me to talk because they didn't have time. Usually they just became free only after 7. So that's why I could not take pictures from outside of the temple, because otherwise it's closed. So I needed someone to assist. So I could only talk to them in night, especially in evenings, which was practically night in December and January. So yeah, coming back to, so along with the Asa Mai ji, Harshri Nath ji is very important. Harshri Nath ji's shrine is there in Jhandewala. I think very close to that RSS office. So Harshri Nath ji's shrine is in Jhandewala. They call it Pir Ratan Nath ji or Kale Kamle Wali Baba, because according to their faith, you have to you cannot wear black coats. And there also, I mean, the kind of devotion, to see the kind of devotion that Afghan Hindus have is fascinating, because every second Monday, all the communities from Faridabad, so what they did, that they hired buses, and they will, from Faridabad to come. Those who were living in Faridabad, of course, those lived in Tilaknagar, they will just, Jhandewala is not very far from Tilaknagar. So they will come for the whole day, and they will sing bhajans and kirtans, and and then they will have langars and make contributions and disseminate information. Plus, I find the newly arriving Afghan Hindu immigrants who got, who took shelter in Pir Ratan Nath ji's dargah. That's what they call. They call the dargah as Harshri Nath ji as Pir Ratan Nath ji, and Pir Ratan Nath ji is the dargah. That's what they say. So they were just, initially I couldn't recognize, because they had to come to, they were just wearing tunics and pajamas like their fellow Muslim brothers, and they were keeping birds. So they said that it was necessary, it became indispensable to don that attire to be safe in Afghanistan. So when they came here, so what I observed, that there was no community support from the side of our majority host, quote-unquote host community. There was no support from any political organization, as well as any cultural organization, based on my oral narratives, based on my interviews. There was no support. Nobody claimed that anyone supported them. But the Pir Ratan Nath ji shrine become very important in terms of providing shelter. And Asa Mai Trust, Asa Mai Temple is very important. And one more important aspect of Pir Ratan Nath is that the first shrine of Pir Ratan Nath is in Jalalabad. That's what they claim. Of course, because, you know, in Nath tradition, the claims that, you know, who is born where is also, there are somewhere conflicts that, but according to the Afghan Hindus claim, the first shrine of Pir Ratan Nath is in Jalalabad. That is very important for me to understand because I have a curiosity to explore and uncover the links that existed between Afghanistan and India, not only in terms of course, you know, we know history that since Mahabharatas, and then there's Ranjit Singh. Prior to Ranjit Singh, I mean, there was the Kashmiri ruler. I'm sorry, the name is not coming. Lalitaditya, I guess. Lalitaditya ji. I think his kingdom was also extended there, and so so all that history we know. But to, you know, to talk about, you know, in modern terms, even if we can establish you know, the existing link, especially of Nath cult, and, you know, someone, you know, claiming that the shrine of Pir Ratan Nath was in Jalalabad is very, very interesting to know, because we know that how this Nath tradition, the Gorakh Nath, you know, tradition, that chap tradition has helped Bharat, you know, to counter the then existing kind of, you know, so many, you know, suppression, and contradictions. It has its own, you know, all the gurus, all the siddhas of these traditions, they have their own unique ways and teachings to claim identities, to assert identity, and to counter and contest the then existing suppressing forces. So in that sense, these two religious symbols, these two places, and these two, I will say, cult is not a justifying term, but let me just for, you know, just for an academic convenience, let me use this term, Asa Mai, if we can say academically, cult, and Gorakh and Pir Ratan Nath cult is very important in terms of, you know, reconnecting the missing link. So when I started, you know, my research, and I was wondering, you know, even until now, people ask me, are there Hindus and are there Sikhs in Afghanistan? So I think, you know, when I started from, you know, those questions, I have, like, I'm like really confident that we have so much to learn, even about own self, about our own civilization, about our own history through Afghans. That's what they say, that they really considered this. And, you know, like I would love to, because it will take, you know, a lot of time, and it's like, these are 300 pages, 350 pages. So I would have loved maybe some other time, but what they said, that they have always considered Bharat to be the place of dharma, the bhumi of dharma. Although initially they felt cheated, but in the changed circumstances of CAA, which is, I guess, in my understanding, is a very delayed response, a very less that we have done, you know, because people are still coming, we know. And I don't know, because technically I have still, you know, to read then what will happen to the children who are just 6 years old, so, you know, and who are, you know, so what happens to them, and what happens to the people, what will happen to the people who are coming after that caption of, like, after the, you know, 2014, because there are so many people. I mean, I met, you know, people, I met I hate the term to refugees to them, to Afghan Hindu and Sikh population. And it is just, I guess, a long overdue, long due as a civilizational duty, I guess, and as our cultural duty and recognition of our, existing link that we had and that we shared with Afghanistan. So I think as of now, I would like to kind of, just stop here, and I'd like to, everyone to just, ask questions, whatever they would like to. I might have missed so many points. I'm sorry, because I have digressed also. I'm realizing there's so much to tell, but I have tried my best not to sound very theoretical, because sometimes I hate it, in our obsession to be theoretically justified, and that is still my kind of dilemma and my difficulty, that in order to justify ourselves and theoretically, we somehow miss the very basic factual and core questions, and that are important not only for that community but for our own existence. So धन्यवाद, और इसके बाद आप please अपने प्रश्न पूछें मुझसे. Sorry to use, I think this much of Hindi is understandable. I'm sorry.
Well, fair enough. Thank you, Aparna ji, for your talk. This happens, especially an academician looks at a subject from an academic point of view, whereas an activist would look at it from an activism point of view. This happens, but that's fine. That's okay. Because you are looking at all the subjects from an academic point of view, from a research point of view. So obviously, it'll have its shade of academia, academic way of looking at it. That's fine, fair enough. Now, before we ask the audience to ask the questions, I'll probably have a few questions to ask, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thank you.
Has CAA made any difference to these people? What is their perception of it? Are they kind of asking their relatives and peers in Afghanistan to now, boldly come to India and then settle, take citizenship? Or is it that still the bureaucracy administration is not okay? Some who are here, they got citizenship, but they're still advising people back home not to come to India. How is it going now? I understand Kamala Harris has said, Trump should give citizenship to 5,000 Afghan Hindus. But she has not supported CAA in India.
Yeah.
So the issue is, are Afghan Hindus comfortable and able to come to India even now? Or they don't have an option but to go elsewhere, Europe or America or somewhere else? India should be the natural home. But in your research, do you find that, especially after CAA, is there a scope for Afghan Hindus to come to India?
So, I'll just take 2-3 minutes, I guess, or maybe more to explain. Interestingly, when CAA happened, in fact, many things, I think I shared this in an email that I wrote to Krishna Bharti, that when many important, I will say historical, decisions were taken by the current dispensation in India. I was in the US in very interesting time, and it kind of made my own journey very interesting in terms of, I was kind of taken aback that there were people holding, there were only a couple of 5 quote unquote self-claimed, self-righteous human rights activists, and first the 370 happened. Of course, I'll not go into that, and then CAA happened, and without knowing the context, and even if you present the context without even having any any interest, a little interest in knowing the reason, they were people in Berkeley, and I shared in Berkeley, and holding placard that we are anti-CAA and Hindu fastest and all these things, and they in fact organized protests, which was, by the way, I think I'll be very straightforward and honest, which self-righteous leftist liberals, along with the Pakistani Muslims and few Indian Muslims also, because there was a lady who was a doctor in Sacramento. I was in University of California, Davis during my Fulbright. I was affiliated with the University of California, Davis campus. So that is very close to Berkeley. So so I was very close to Sacramento, which is the capital of California. So there was like people, so only like couple of people, and they were like, there was a huge propaganda. And there's a reason to tell, to give you this kind of background in terms of what Afghans think about CAA. So yeah, amidst this propaganda, I met with I had this opportunity to meet, because in California there are not many Hindus. So mostly the population, as per the narratives of Afghan Hindus, so most of the population is in other coast, the New York and Hicksville and Washington. So they said, okay, suddenly people became interested in our cause, and they are coming for the interview, although some of them didn't publish. But suddenly, so many people and so many channels have become interested in our mission. We are happy that at least people are talking about us. So there was a kind of, happiness, but say objectively, and to be very honest, we have to understand that there are pragmatically very little population left in Afghanistan, especially Hindus and Sikhs. Most of them, sir, most of the population. If there's every day, bombarding happening, you cannot imagine people to be, living there. So most of the, and I have already started with giving you the background that the Afghan migration started since 1979. It has been going on, and there was a huge break, and then since it's restarted from 90s, early 1990s. And since then, it never stopped actually. So most of the people, because India did not have any kind of concrete policy as it had for Tibetans, just in Dharamshala, there are lakhs of Tibetans, and I have also been to Mussoorie. So you will not find, most of the population is in Western Europe. So there are, quite an amount in Germany of Afghan Sikhs and Hindus, and there are a sizable amount, not as compared to Germany, but sizable amount in the US and Canada, of course, and Western Europe, especially in Netherlands and France. So the thing is that wherever they find those who could, there are so many ways. We all know, when forced migration happened, people use all the means. So I'll just say that those who could afford to go to Western and developing countries, so they of course opted to that, and they have used all the means, because nothing was happening here. In fact, I met a couple of families in New York, Hicksville. The founder of the Asa Mai Hindu Association in Hicksville himself was staying in Delhi. I think he did his BSc and MSc from Delhi University, and then he went back to the US, and he's of course now a settled person there. So there are not many family left in Afghanistan. B, in all those years, I guess decades, I should say, they have tried on the basis of self-motivation, their best to get resettled in Western world, as well as in India, about the possibility of having, I think they are positive of if pragmatically, because unfortunately I could not talk to them post CA. I am now planning to go to just restart my post CAA fieldwork with them. That what do they think? They were definitely in hope, because all these years what I have felt, it was a kind of feeling of humiliation and insult, that sometimes why people say that we are not even Hindus and we are like Muslims, and why did we come here, and then a sense of denial.
Yeah, but
So
hello.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I was looking
Yes,
for
sir.
a specific answer. Are the people Hindus in Afghanistan, whoever are left, are they comfortable to come to India after this CAA? What's your feedback?
Sir, we have to be very honest, whoever are left are in a very poor condition. So as a researcher, whatever I know, so if we really want to help and if we really feel it as our civilizational duty, as a researcher, what I'm saying that those who are left, so as with minimum support. There are even coming kind of, widowed women with children. So they have used all the means. Even I have seen families, like their relatives had supported them to fly to India, but they were just, he was a sevadar in Gurudwara, just earning 1,200, having 5 kids. One of the kid was physically disabled, physically challenged. So his daughter he was a sevadar, and so I could sense that, everyone tells, jinko aana tha wo aa gaye. Those who are left are really poor. So I don't know how far, do we have really willpower, and the means, and kind of, we have to be really intelligent enough to come out with a strategy to kind of, pull up resources through community. And Khalsa Diwan can be very, very significant, and also Asa Mai Trust, because they have really strong connections. So this can be done, that we can facilitate the air flight. That can be done.
Okay,
but
I think
yes, we can talk about it.
Yeah, but then are there problems in Afghanistan for Afghan Hindus in Afghanistan? Of course, as you said, very few are left. Are there pressures of forced conversions like we see in Sindh? For instance, in Sindh, the girls are kidnapped and forced converted, married off to elderly people. Do you see that kind of a conversion pressure on the minorities in Afghanistan?
Yes, very interesting question, sir. So, as a researcher, I have to be really honest. So, and I have really asked this question many times. So, how to begin? Many times, in fact, just to my recent visit to New York in Hicksville. So the majority of my narrative, majority of my interviewees, they said that prior to 1979, if we, and I deliberately want to, put this in context with quote unquote South Asia. I would like to call it like Indian subcontinent, right? That's the better word.
Yeah, I think we should never use the word South Asia. South Asia is never existed.
Yes, sir. In South, now I've understood the politics. Oh my goodness! South Asia is just, a brand for,
taking
India.
Away the word India. Taking away the word India. It's Indian concept.
Yes. It is
please go ahead.
Yeah. So in the Indian subcontinent, I have deliberately asked this question. Many times. So most of the narratives, directly or indirectly, I will come to the pressure thing. So they said that prior to 1979. My understanding that the Afghan Hindus and Sikhs were really, really in better position, much better position than the Hindus and Sikhs and the rest of the minorities and our friendly neighbors. I think I can make my sense, right? So if we compare the condition, and I'm saying about actually the pressure, the pressure started, and this I'm saying because I've just going back to the narratives because it's a huge collection of narratives. So I was going back to the narratives, and most of the narratives, they said that we were really a very proud community there. We were just, so I'll just give a couple of examples. There was Niranjan Das during Amanullah Khan. So he was both finance secretary and defense secretary. And then after that, for good 20 years, and then his daughter also was, trusted. And they said that we were a proud community. Everybody trusted us. We just had a good hold over the markets and banks. So we were in exchange, we were very good. And we were we were in the politics. We were we were producing doctors and engineers. In fact, I met a couple of families, a Sikh family. So his elder brother now, he must be in his 80s, late 80s. So he's a well-placed doctor there. So yeah, so that's what they say, that 29, the things were comparatively easier. But if we compare, but it was not in the case of Pakistan, for example. Because you can, my understanding that you cannot flourish as a vibrant economic community unless you are supported by the state. So, barring those periods, the Taliban state, the state did not persecute. So, the narrative is that it's not that we were not humiliated. It's not that there was no kind of, recognizable discrimination in terms of, okay, he said that even like you best of the friends, I mean, they were friends with us, but in some time, in 10 years, they will say, okay, tum shandar ho yaar, aadmi zabardast ho, but agar convert ho jate to achhi baat ho. So those, subtle things were there, kind of, in terms of bullying, but not aggressive. So I will be honest in that sense. So I really respect Afghans for, really I'm saying this. I have to admit that, because I have like worked more with, this time I have like, I talk more with the Afghan Muslims, and my understanding that they are wonderful. If I compare them, I'm sorry, I'm being very straightforward, but if I compare with them, with the, with their co-religionist in our friendly countries, in Pakistan especially, they are way ahead, especially the younger generation. Anyways, so coming back to the point, the pressure of course, yes, conversion. In fact, the pressure of, pursuing normal religious life, it was, it became worse actually during 1992, because it was so open. So, as I said, there's they say that we cannot maintain our temples, but no one destroyed them deliberately. That's what they say. So that's a very important point to remember us.
But post 79, post 79 they did have pressure of conversions and other things, right?
No, not post 79. I think 1992.
92.
So 1992 it was very aggressive. So in the sense that the bullying was very aggressive. So, and it was not that, from their neighbors or their, old friends, because, I will really be honest, because I have to be, because they said that our neighbors helped us in, evacuating us and supporting us. And that's, I don't find this in Kashmir. It didn't happen in Kashmir, because they were like, neighbors killing and, providing, a clue to the terrorists. So that didn't happen. I didn't any single story of, I might be wrong. Maybe someone else come and say this. I'll come back to the conversion factor, sir. And that's very interesting, actually, what I will be sharing. That they say that the, pressure, kind of mounted in terms of the Taliban's, that dictate if them, like, they have to, because, they said that we were like, people, common people. So no one could recognize that I'm a Muslim or a Hindu. Because we apart from that, we practice our religion, we were different in our religion, we wore the same clothes, we wore the same language, and our women were wearing the same clothes. So they couldn't recognize. So what the Taliban did, that they were made, it was mandatory to wear a, yellow scarf, just to, yellow scarf kind of things, just to, differentiate them. Otherwise they looked similar. They spoke Pashto or Dari, whatever. So, and then they were not, allowed to, cremate. These things happen, and they will not provide the Shamashan Bhumi to honor their deceased, and to perform their last rites. So that made the life more vulnerable. That made their life very vulnerable. So that they admit. Plus, the pressure of conversion, I'll really say that they, at least in this recent visit to Hicksville, New York. I think I can take his name, because otherwise I'm not allowed, but he has allowed me that, okay, you just take my name. It's not, otherwise I just use the fake identity, even after the post-CA thing. Senapati ji is a Senapati. So Mr. Senapati said that, prior to 1979, we were just, like kings. We were living like kings, but the pressure, and he specifically uses, and during my focus group discussion, all of them, they concluded that it's not Taliban, it's just Pakistan. So the kind of animosity and the kind of fierce hate that they had to face was for them also something which was kind of, they were taken aback. So, but coming back to this forced conversion thing, sir, I think when I talked about, can we still go back to the slide just to answer your question, to the regions of Afghanistan? Can we please go back to the slide? The regions of Afghanistan. So I'll just talk in between. Yeah, I'll just continue talking. So regions.
One before that.
This one. Yeah. So we can see this, you know, this Afghanistan. Yeah, the other map. Maybe the other map. The third one, which shows the flow of Pakistan. Yeah. So this is, you know, Bharat and Afghanistan through Pakistan. So there are, you know, bordering regions, and as we know that Afghanistan still doesn't recognize the Durand line. So there's a, you know, boundary regions between that lie between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which they call Tarai region. So there, majority of the Hosti Afghan, I talked about the Hosti Biradri, you know, during my talk. So the Hosti, I met a couple of, you know, Hosti Hindu families. And they were the most, and I read an article about them. I have read an article about them long back. And so they technically belong to the Tarai region, which falls between, you know, Afghanistan and Pakistan. So the thing is that culturally they are Afghans, ethnically they are Afghans, but technically they belong to the Pakistan state. So they were the most vulnerable people because they felt the most, like, you know, kind of, you know, because the Hosti Afghans, the Hosti Hindu Afghans living in that area, they have really complained me that we felt, I mean, the force of conversion. And I can relate this with the kind of, you know, fundamentalism and institutionalization of Islamic and ISIS and Al-Qaeda kind of, and Talibanization of the entire region. That region is the factory, I guess, if you know, that Northwest Frontier Province, because Pakistan has established the camps there. So there's like, you know, and it has, this project is going on since, I guess, 70s. It's not a new thing. This project is going on since like late 70s. And Mujahideen was also like, it's not just the Afghan thing. The Pakistan was culprit during that time also. So they said that their life was really, I mean, their life became miserable after 1992, and it was like really direct when they didn't send their girls to school. Their women, they used to, you know, be clad in burqa. Even they never go out without, you know, without, you know, their men, any of them, you know, elder men accompanying them. And they were open kind of, you know, thread that why don't you marry a girl with us? So yeah, I think one of my key respondent, Raj Sharma ji, I think now I can take his name because he, fortunately, he got his naturalization in 2015. So he admitted to, you know, to have those kind of experience. So I think I can say that the blatant open force for conversion, it kind of intensified post 1992 period. And then, yeah, it is more fierce in the region that is close to Pakistan. And the irony is that the Afghan belonging technically to Pakistan region, because they had Pakistani passport, so they were not even recognized as UNHCR refugees. So the thing is that they just, you know, went on to stay for years on extended visa, or maybe undocumented, you know, person, undocumented foreigners. But the Indian state didn't have any policy for Afghans, plus they didn't have any support from the UNHCR, because for UNHCR they were Pakistanis. And apart from this, because we have, I mean, for good reasons, Indian state is, I mean, became skeptical post 1992 towards, you know, people coming from Pakistan for good reasons. But that also made their life vulnerable, because the police also, you know, during their visits, they were skeptical that why did you come here? And you should have, I mean, why didn't you come here in 1947? You know, these kind of questions were asked to them. So I think they were the most vulnerable group. The Afghanis, the culturally, the ethnically, those who belong to the host culture, but those who were, unfortunate to be having, in the wrong side of the border, that Afghan group is, unfortunately, their problems could be addressed with this CAA thing, because, yeah.
Sure. Thanks. I'll just ask one more question, and I think we'll throw it open now. What do you has your research come out with any concrete suggestions to the government of India in terms of what do you expect them to do? CAA happened, but probably that's not sufficient, right? Beyond CAA, what do you want the government of India to do in terms of protecting the people there in Afghanistan, or facilitating their transit here, or more importantly, allowing people who have migrated here to go back? If somebody wants to go back and live in Kabul, in Kandahar, or whatever, do you have any concrete suggestions in terms of you want to give some suggestions to the government of India? How do they go back with dignity and pride? Do you have any?
Going back, I don't think in the near future I see any possibility of going back in terms of very urgent. I mean, unless and until someone has really urgent reasons for trade reasons. And yes, I did come across. I mean, they were like they were complaining earlier, pre-CAA scenario I'm talking. In fact, in 2014, I guess 2014 or 15 or 16, yeah, it's post 2014, the Indian government did a right thing to kind of allow. So I'll have to talk about the Citizenship Act. So the naturalization of foreigners, it requires a certain amount of period of stay, and it is 12 years. Exceptions are there, including the CAA exceptions, like for 12 years. And then you have in the 12th final year, the person is supposed to be having stayed for for entire year, and they are not expected to go out. So they will think, and like most of the Afghans, so they either one of the family members or some of the relative, so they have they have to go for because they have some shop in Afghanistan, back in Afghanistan, or some they used to work in Russia. So they have problem. I have like tens of examples that in the last their file was not moved because in the 12th year they had to go to Russia for trade purpose. So the break in the final year of stay, so that thing happened. So I think yes, in terms of helping, I guess CAE can address a lot of problems. Because I guess the current dispensation after 2014 has also allowed not to Afghans, because technically the state cannot do this, right? Because as controversy emerges, so to smartly tackle that controversy, they have allowed extended visas for the UNHCR mandated refugees. So those refugees who come under UNHCR, so they were provided extended visa for 2 years. But that did not solve the problem, because most of the Afghan Hindus and Sikhs, they were not, I mean, if you just still look into the data of UNHCR, they are just, 10,000, 12,000 Afghans. It keeps fluctuating. Somewhere the number, keeps fluctuating from 8,000 to 12,000 to 10,000, between 10,000. So this is a number, but there's so many Afghans there in Delhi, as well as a few in Amritsar and state of Punjab. So my opinion, and as per my narrative, suggests there are almost 50,000, the head count, across 50,000 Afghan Hindus and Sikhs. So what is the rule for those who are not UNHCR mandated refugees, who are technically who fall under the documented or undocumented foreigners from Afghanistan? So that was the main question for me. So I think CAA has solved a lot of problem in terms of those who have arrived until December 2014. But rightly said that I don't see any possibility in near future of going back. And if they want to go back as Indian citizen, they are free, right, to go back. So for any person getting naturalization and acquiring citizenship, it's not a problem. But of course, the genuine problem is what happens to those who are left. And if we can really, honestly, through NEA and through our ambassador there and through the help of community organization, we can really, find those who are really willing to come to India. So we should be having some, because I'll not go into detail, but I know that, there was a dispensation and they were like, rightly, I think I'll be blatant. So during Chidambaram period, it was a very difficult time for them. And they have accepted this. And during Nasimha government, I'll not disclose, but the dispensation, for few cases, it really tried to, help them. But they were also under immense pressure. So I think I will not say much. What I want to say that any strong nation, if any strong nation wants to do something, can do. And we are a country of more than 1 billion population, so we can definitely do about that. Because the question of going back, I don't think that it arises in near future, unfortunately.
Yeah, I understand that. See, my question was more of a Indian policy point of view. Does India? I understand today till Afghanistan stabilizes and it has. It can offer some kind of peace and stability and security. Nobody can go back. I understand.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, as a researcher, when you are going to make a presentation, you should provide all the options to the government to make a policy, right? The policy would involve how do you get people out and how do you treat them, and if somebody wants to go back as Afghan citizens, what is the government of India's role? From that perspective, from a policy suggestion perspective, I was trying to suggest. I understand that nobody can go back. Definitely not now, especially after US is going to withdraw. It's going to be chaos out there, and we know what's going to happen. That's not the issue. My suggestion was in terms of, as a researcher, maybe you should articulate in terms of the policy, overall policy that government of India should have towards the Afghan minorities, not just CAA, but probably much beyond that.
Yes. So So as of now, I think I'll.
I think we'll leave it there. We'll start taking questions. I think, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, actually.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask Rakaji. Rakaji, please ask the question. You have to unmute. Yeah, you can unmute. Yeah.
That was a wonderful presentation. I have one observation to make and 2 questions to ask. The first one, Dr. Malaviya was talking about the Kostis and Kabulis, the Afghan Hindus identifying themselves with the regions they come from, they hail from. I have seen the same kind of situation among the Bangladeshi Hindu refugees in Assam and Bengal. They identify themselves as Dhakaiyas, Maimansinghiyas, Khulnais and Rajshahis, and then even Siletiyas, so on and so forth, even Chattagramia. And even in their marriages, they specifically mention the village they originally belong to. This is one observation that I just wanted to make public, because, the same kind of situation exists even among the Hindu refugees who have come from Pakistan. There are Mirpuri associations in Delhi, there are Sialkoti associations in Delhi, where people still identify, even after 70 years, with their native districts, the districts that their forefathers belong to. This is just an observation. The second point, the questions. The first is, you were talking about Akali Kaur Singh. Is he the same one who has done a lot of work among the Sikhs in Jammu and Kashmir? Is my first question. The second question is, during your studies of the migratory population, have you ever come across examples like Asa Mai of Afghans and Julelal of Sindh, the divinely forces that are guiding these communities and are propelling them to excel in their professions as expatriates. So, have you noticed this kind of situation in any other migratory community during your stay, either during your stay in the US or in the UK? The third and the last question is, you were talking about UNHCR recognition to the refugees. The Rohingyas are recognized as refugees by the UNHCR. So, what should be the status of Rohingyas in India? Those who have come to India, they are treated as UNHCR refugees, but the government of India does here it says it does not go by the UN Convention of the on refugees. So, what should be the status of Rohingyas who are recognized by the UNHCR on one hand, but the government of India, which recognizes the Sikh and Afghani Sikh and Hindus, but not the Rohingyas? Thank you so much.
Yeah, so first, like it was a comment and rather suggestions, very good suggestions, sir. So can you please just share some reference so that, I really want to develop a conceptual kind of framework to understand whether it is unique to Afghans, because, I have read about Afghan identity in terms of, Multanis and traders, from Punjab, going like Aroras and Khatris and Multanis, but not these regional identities. So I'll just, request you to, share your perspective in terms of if you have any reference. I thank you in advance.
In fact, even in their wedding invitations, they mention that even in the wedding invitations of the Bengali Hindu refugees, they say that this is from Noakhali district and from so-and-so village is getting married to so-and-so person, a resident of so-and-so village of Noakhali district. And again, the marriages between a Dhakaiya and a Chatagramya, even among the refugees, is not possible. A Dhakaiya marries a Dhakaiya. A Chatagramya marries a Chatagramya. I would send the details to you after taking the emails and others from our friends.
Request it would be of immense help, and my email ID is with Rajna Bharti, so I'll just request you to share the references.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for your feedback. It was really, I know that I have something in mind. I'll just maybe develop that. The other thing was Akali Kaur Singh. The other question was...
Akali Kaur Singh has done a lot of work among the Sikhs in Jammu and Kashmir. Is it the same person?
I'm sorry that as of, according to my oral narratives, I was not told about his work with Kashmiri people, but of course he went from Punjab to that region. So if you just can, I'll just go into detail because I have not really explored much about his personality per se. But they said that he kind of, he was in jail, and I think he was. So if you just can mention the period. Because Akali Kaur Singh ji, he worked in Afghanistan.
He passed away in 1953.
And was he doing his work in 1920s or 30s?
Yeah, he died when he was 56, and this man used to debate with Arya Samaji people on the importance of Sikh religion, so on and so forth. And he has founded a lot of schools in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. And also, he must have gone to Afghanistan.
So I can find this out in the literature about Sikhism and expansion of Sikhism in Indian subcontinent. So
the third question,
that would be.
The third question was about Rohingyas, who are recognized as UNHCR refugees, and one was about icons like Julelal and Asa Mai among refugee population of Indian origin. Do they have any, for example, the Afghan street Asa Mai as their guiding spirit, the same way the Sindhi street Julelal as their guiding spirit. Wherever they have gone, they have excelled. You are saying that the Afghans who have gone to the US and UK and Germany, they have excelled and they have constructed temples and whatnot. So any other Indian community which has gone as an expat or any other foreign community, do they have similar icons like Asa Mai, or say Jhulelal,
Yes.
unique to these
So
communities?
yes. So that this is also a very important question, and thank you so much. Not only amongst the Indian community, I think in migration literature, in migration academia, I think the role of religion has really been underlined, and it has been argued by so many, so many researchers who have worked on refugees, and be it Jews or Hmong refugees. I mean, refugees in Southeast Asia. So what happens that when there is a, kind of, no support, the religion becomes a platform, a tool, an instrument, just to kind of, to rebuild the confidence, and to counter the kind of, there's so many theories. So, on psychological level, it becomes a tool to kind of, address the trauma. And it also, gives the community a platform to come together and do something about the current situation. So so it has been observed even in the case of different refugee communities might not have established some institutions, but religion is important in some way or the other in many of the refugee communities, including the Indian origin communities, especially because the importance of refugees has been underlined amongst Jews and among refugees from Hutu refugees and in South Asian population. But yes, I'll just share my experience that if I just talk about the Indian context, I was really, and I will say I was pleasantly surprised to kind of, have noticed a comparatively stronger urge and a comparatively very, very successful resettlement and self-motivational and self-kind of erected resettlement structures by the Afghan Hindu and Sikh refugees in comparison to the other refugee community under UNHCR. So it's not just only there are Rohingyas. Under UNHCR, I've said that because I was also, doing my ethnographic work like 4 and 5, I have like phased it out. So 4 or 5 months, I have been visiting the UNHCR partner organization. So UNHCR works in partnership with some,
Agencies,
NGOs. Yeah, NGOs and industries. So there was Don Bosco and Socio-legal Information Center, and there was YMCA. So I was going to their offices and observing and taking part in their, activities and what is happening in their offices. So there's a whole lot of chapters. So I'm really not going to detail, but what I have observed, because I was observing the African refugees, from different countries, from Congo, and they were like from Somalia. I was also observing Myanmar. Unfortunately, just people talk about Rohingyas, but I mean, we have to understand that it's not just Rohingyas who have come from Myanmar. There are 12. I mean, I think if I'm not wrong, you are from Bengal, or
no, I have worked in. No, I have worked in Bengal and Assam for quite some time.
So I think more than you might be aware of the situation that in the Northeast region, there are so many Christian Myanmaris, and there are almost 12 ethnicities of Burmese. That's how they are known, the UNHCR categorization. So it's not, and I have been meeting them prior to this 2012 when I was really doing my field work. I was that time in Hyderabad. And that 2012 happened. I mean, I just like to remind the panel that it was suddenly that there was a Azad Maidan ruckus, and
yes,
I will call it Hunda Garbi and riots on some fake video, which has nothing to do with India, because India, even the Indian government did not recognize, even Indian Supreme Court. I mean, I think you might be well aware, sir, that Indian Supreme Court did give the verdict that the Chakma refugees from Chittagong, they must be given citizenship, but the Arunachal Pradesh and the local population, they are not in favor, and so much has been written about them. Especially Deepak Singh has specifically worked, like he has come out
in the Vijayanagar area. Yeah, in the Vijayanagar area.
And they were deported despite the Supreme Court verdict. the Chakma Hindu, the refugees from the Chittagong Hill tracts, and about them. So it's not that we only have Rohingyas. We had like other refugees belonging to Christian minorities and other tribal communities, because Myanmar is also ethnically very diverse country. So I met with like small kids and really vulnerable population. I mean, like there was one woman who was really raped en route 8 times, and she came from on foot. So, and there are different refugees from different African countries, and I met with the refugees from, not many, of course their numbers is not very significant, they are just in maybe 10 or 15 of 100 refugees. So like there were like a couple of people from Iraq and Iran and Palestine. Yeah, so I don't think India, as of now, India does not have a refugee policy, but the policy is like, non-refoulement is the policy. So to deal with any foreigner, I mean, we deal with asylum seeker and refugees on the same, parameters. So there is a Foreigners Act, there is a Foreigners Regional Registration of Foreigners Act, and there is a Passport Act. And then we have non-refoulement, which essentially means that Indian state is cannot, refuse asylum to a person who is in, who really proves to be in a genuine, need of, who is feeling threat to his or her life. But despite, that, people have been deported, and, deliberately. So Chakmas have, for instance, they have been deported. So, so I think India is a couple of, I guess, I'm not very sure, but a couple of Tamil refugees have also been, in some papers, the people said that they were deported. I'm not very sure, because there still is, a lot of, political support for Tamil refugees. So they were refugees under the, recognized as, refugees. Indian government recognized them as refugees. But apart from that, I think Indian government, since India is not a signatory to the Convention of 1951, UN Convention that relates to the deals with the protection of refugees and asylum seekers. So I think as a strong state, India, I mean, there are so many. I don't think that I need to make any statement. I think as a state, whatever the state feels, I mean, I don't think, I mean, the very important point that I wanted to make, that essentially, I think here I can use the term South Asia. So Myanmar is not part of South Asia, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So why does the even question arise? I mean, the CAA, because I am really relating this question, and people have asked this question. So I said that CAA is just like Indian state should have done it long back. We had in the past provided not only refuge but citizenship. Even Nehru has provided citizenship to people, many of the Tamil Hindu refugees who were like kicked out from Myanmar, I think in 50s.
Yes,
so they
exactly.
they have been provided land as well as support to reestablish their businesses. Even I happened to visit Bangladesh, and I was visiting some refugee camps there, and I was like just surprising. I was happy to notice a Tamilian, because he could recognize that I'm from India, and I'm Tamilian. And then how come you are here? So he said that I came from Myanmar. So I was my forefathers were in Myanmar, but when we were kicked out, and we just because we were just kind of familiar with the environment of Bangladesh, so we had
Yep. May I just add one thing?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
May I just add one thing? Dhaka city has about 70,000 Telugu-speaking people from Srikakulam district.
Oh, yeah.
70,000 Telugu people from Srikakulam district, because Srikakulam, the railway tracks, wherever they went, the people of Srikakulam went, and Dhaka has about 70,000 people. and they still get married to girls and boys in Srikakulam district. They simply cross the Binapol, Petrapol, check post on the India-Bangladesh border and simply sneak into Delhi, Dhaka.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
Rakaji, one of the questions that you asked was, are there any communities which are inspired like Asa Mai and Julelal?
No.
There is this thing about Hinglaj Mata also.
Hinglaj Mata for the Baluch Hindus, yes.
Not just Baluch. Hinglaj is connected to Rajasthanis. If you remember right, Jaswant Singh, he had gone with a delegation to Hinglaj.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan had permitted that he had taken a japtha to Hinglaj and came back. Hinglaj was very important for many Rajput kingdoms also. So Balochis, Sindhis, and of course Rajputs. Hinglaj is also very, very crucial, and Hinglaj is like, in fact, there are sadhus in Hinglaj even today. Pakistani passport holding sadhus.
Okay.
So that's a third very powerful one other than Julelal and Asa Mai. If you look at it, Hinglaj is very powerful.
Yeah. So I think I'll like to make one.
Aparna ji, I think let's make it a little fast because there are a few more to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. So just very briefly, I would like to say that I don't think, because when I compare the counterparts of refugees belonging to the other. So there are two things: the refugee belonging to the other countries. I don't see them, comparatively making such a successful mark in terms of resettlement if I compare them with Afghans. So and that's what Afghans claim. In fact, just in my recent visit also, that it is maybe the kripa and the blessings of Asa Mai and our gurus that. We have emerged and recollected everything, and we have wherever we are a proud Afghan community. So
Great.
And they said that that's because of their faith. Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Now I would request Hamid Bahram to speak, please. Mr. Hamid, please. You can unmute. Yeah, now you can talk.
Thank you so much, sir. And that was very well researched and very impressive presentation, actually, I've ever heard about the Afghan Sikhs. But even I have very brief information about them. If you have time, that I will share it. And
if you can be brief,
Please.
Yeah.
Very briefly, yes. Because the ma'am already showed the map of Afghanistan, and she talked about the Hosti Hindus, about the Kabulis, but she did not talk about the Paktiawals. I'm from that area, and I know the information about those people.
Yeah. Hamid ji, you're okay? Oh, okay.
And yes, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. There was some break in your talk. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Before 1980s, we had almost 800 of the Sikhs and Hindus in that region, Paktia, which I originally belonged to in the Gardi city. And my forefather, my grandfather and my father, they were talking about them, and we had very close relationships. We had very close ties, and we were like living as a brothers and as a family in that era. But there were some reasons for the forced immigration, and I know after the invasion of Afghanistan by the Russians, and the new era has been shaped in my country, and not only for Islam, but even for these people which were living, for the minorities, and especially when the jihad came, the so-called mujahideen, which were the product of the Pakistan, and so they were the main reason to force these people.
I think your signal is broken.
There was nothing. Islam. Is it okay, sir? Now?
Now, okay. You're just saying that when the jihadis came from Pakistan, then it broke. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I was mentioning that those people, like the so-called leaders, which were the the product of the Pakistan, they will somehow influence the people in minority and make them or force them to leave our country. But before that, we were like the family members. If you come to my place, Gardis, Paktia, you will find the temple of the Hindus over there. They had like rituals over there. A very famous place which is called the Hindu Bagh. I have seen that. I have been there, and there was an area which is called Balahisa. Like most of the Hindus and Sikhs were inhabitants of those areas, and somehow they were forced and lived. And one of the very interesting thing which I want to share, in 2015 I came to India in Delhi, in Lajpat Nagar, which is called Chota Kabul. Like there are hundreds of the Afghans over there, even Sikhs you can find. And I was searching for the medicine. I went to pharmacy, and I didn't know how to speak in Hindi. I talked to a pharmacist, and in return he asked me in Persian. That was a Sikh, and he asked me where I'm from, and I said I'm from Afghanistan, and I mentioned from Gardis. And suddenly he asked me about my close families. I said they are my families, and I asked him. I was wondering, how do you know about everyone? He said I belong to that area, and I was feeling a bit embarrassed that how we lost our citizens, or how we are far from each other, and that was a very embarrassing moment for me actually. But even in ma'am, you were talking about the Jalalabad, about Khost, about Ghazni. I have been to these places also. I have seen the rituals of the Hindus over there, especially in Nangarhar, and we know that there were some political reasons behind the forced immigration of this minority in my country. And the question arises here, I would like to ask you this question, that there is many countries in the neighborhood of Afghanistan that they played a very significant role. Is such an evidence in your research or not? Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamid. And I'm sorry, it might take a longer. I'm so sorry. The presentation might go, but might take more time. But it's my duty to just convey, Hamid. Thank you so much, Tademashe. And I think I really want to emphasize this point, sir. And I have said this in my, in the beginning of my presentation, that although, looking into the politics of, the Talibanization, or say, sort of radical Islamization of Afghanistan was not the, objective of my research, but, parallelly as I go into deep and I, see what was happening in Afghanistan, since, 1947, when this rogue state of Pakistan was created on the basis of religion, I think, because, to respond to, I'm sorry, Hamid, I know that Paktia, and there are so many Gardesi also, from Gardesi Hindu also. So I know of their stories. Yeah, I know that it's a very deep and dirty politics of not all the Afghanistan has, unfortunately become theater of, Cold War politics, and in just recent, it has been a universal acceptance by all the Hindus and Sikhs Afghan, of course, the Muslim Afghans, that prior to 1979, and he said, Senapati ji, I was just, revising my narratives, and he just told, because, he really belonged to a very influential Hindu family in Kabul, and he said that, in Afghanistan, color TV came in 1965, and in India, it came much later. In Afghanistan, especially Kabul, was like Europe. And when you see the pictures prior to 1979, Afghanistan was, it was, kind of just close to become next, very developed Turkey or maybe Iran of Indian subcontinent. So that, I know that's a dirty politics, and of course, it's not that I don't see, when I read the literature of Lashkar-e-Taiba and, Mujahideens, it's not just, someone came and, just quickly happened and, people just took guns. It has a conspiracy, and it is shared by my Afghan Muslim friends. And let me also, close my remarks and to convey, Hamid, that, sir, really, and I share this in my family also, that I don't know why I have talked to Pakistani also, and I have talked to Bangladeshis also. In fact, to just share one more thing, that post CAA thing, post 370 thing, I was really welcomed in all the Afghan Muslim families. I felt very protected. They have invited me, and they have really, protected me as their sister. And I mean, they didn't allow me. I didn't have a car, so they never allowed me to go, because I could conduct the interview only in night. They never allowed me to go alone to take a taxi. So I really felt protected. So they also share this, that they now understand the conspiracy of Pakistan, and how. All I can say that we need a stronger Afghanistan. Indian subcontinent, the strength of Indian subcontinent lies, and I don't know, and we should put our efforts in that direction. So yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we'll just take the next few questions and we'll quickly go through it. Ravi Krishna ji,
and
please.
One more thing, sir.
Yeah.
Can I just, request Hamid, or maybe you can just express that if he has some, kind of pictures from Gardez's Hindu thing, if he can just share with me in my email ID, I would be really, grateful to him. And thank you so much in advance. Yeah.
Yes, Ma'am, I can take the photos through my family.
Please, Hamid. Yeah.
In a close neighborhood, I can share the place of the very famous places which they were inhabitants over there, the areas which they were living there. I can share. Just send me your email.
Delhi people are very hospitable to do come to Mandi sometimes. You have a home here. Do come here.
But tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, thank you so much, ma'am. India is our second home. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Indeed.
No, it's not your second home. It's your first home, man. Afghanistan is part of Indian subcontinent.
Indian subcontinent and Indian civilization.
Doesn't matter how many kingdoms we had. India always had many kingdoms, but it is again India only. It was not called Kashmir. It was not called
come to Himachal.
You will
one. Feel at home. Yeah.
Thank you. Ravi Krishna ji, please ask your question.
Sir, namaste andi.
Namaste.
Madam, how do you identify these person is a refugee or a aboriginal? First thing. Second thing, what is the metrics? What is the primary data you have collected apart from secondary data? Third thing, what is the amount of cultural erosion in the pockets when compared to the natives?
Can I respond?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I think I'll just respond to his second question. He talked about secondary data. No, so I think I'm basically by training and I'm an ethnographer. So my entire thesis is based on first-hand primary data. So I think I'm sorry that I did not mention about my methodology. So my thesis is an ethnographic study, and which is titled as Afghan Border and Belongingness, an ethnographic study of Afghan refugees. And ethnography means that you have to have a first-hand interaction with the person, with having all the rules and regulation and underlying methods of data collection, which is contextuality and neutrality and all other things there. So I did conduct I did collect a primary data. Of course, for your research, you have to kind of, also, read policies. You have to kind of, even I have been observing and, being part, I mean, so to be very, just give you a glimpse of the thing that I have taught in Khalsa, I have attended the stitching classes run by Khalsa Diwan. I have gone to the Jatha, the 15 days Jatha of Afghan Sikhs as well as Hindus. They went from Delhi by train to Sachkhand Sahib Nanded. So I have followed them to their Jathas, and I have been visiting the Raqab. I mean, it's a very deep research, and you need probably I need another kind of slot to discuss my research in detail. I've also worked with Afghan Muslims, and for them I have separately gone, because then they are UNHCR refugees. So I have been visiting different offices, the social legal information center. So I have been going and sitting there just to observe them and talk to them. So I have conducted what we say a participant observation. I have stayed in Tilak Nagar. I have been participating in their events, what is called in methodology participant observation, and I have conducting in-depth interviews and focus group discussions. So these are the core methodologies that I adopted to collect data. And of course, my postdoctoral research also. By training, I'm an ethnographer. And yeah, cultural erosion, sir, it's a perceptual thing. So I really, cannot, I don't really, I fully understand. I cannot really understand what you really mean by cultural erosion. If you mean that there is a kind of perceived loss in terms of in terms of loss of identity, in terms of dialect, in terms of culture, in terms of for example, marriage rituals. So yes, there is always a generational gap. For example, if you talk to any elderly person belonging to the Afghan Hindu or maybe Sikh refugees, or even in case of Afghan Muslims, when I talk to Afghan Muslims, Afghan Pashtuns, their worry is that what will happen? Their children are Americanized. In the same sense, Afghan, the modern Afghan, the young Afghan generation who are born here, who are brought up here, they are not well versed in Pashto. So of course that I think for Afghan Hindus and Sikhs, the only concern is that maintenance of the Pashto thing. But I don't think, because the other aspect, I'm talking about the Afghan Hindus and Sikhs, that they can largely relate to the culture, because this is the land of their dharma. So in that sense, I don't think, and they relate, with everything. Even the Afghan Muslims, they relate more with India, because they say that, they're like more familiar culture in terms of, they have mosque here, they can get halal meats, and they have this fascination for Bollywood, and I can go on and on in these aspects. So loss of the cultural erosion, I will say it's more there in people who are in Western world. So yes, they are really concerned, and that's why the role of this foundation of religious and cultural associations like Asa Mai Mandir and like Gurudwaras all across global cities is very significant in terms of if we look at that context.
कभी आपको ऑलरेडी कन्वर्ट होके रिपेंट होने वाला सामने आया कोई? ऑलरेडी कन्वर्ट में कन्वर्ट होने के बाद रिपेंट होते हुए आपको दिखाई दिया?
कन्वर्ट होने के बाद वाला सर तो नहीं, I haven't seen, but interestingly I saw a Zoroastrian in Delhi. So he was very skeptical when I was really going to Social Legal Information Center. So this fellow, he came with his family. So he used to work as volunteer in Social Legal Information Center. I will still not use his name because I don't know whether he still got resettlement. And he was really worried. So he said that he was a Zoroastrian by ancestry. So he wanted to change. There are two examples that I will give. So he wanted to change back to his forefathers' religion, but he said that he did so without even the knowledge of his relatives, because he feared for his life. And few of the relatives who later came to know about his decision to go back to not the Hinduism, he went back to he became again. So he said that they were really, really very furious, and that was also one of the reasons that he came to India and he left Afghanistan. And the other was I didn't see any example during my field work, both in India and in the US, of any Muslim Muslim who has converted from Hinduism. I didn't see any Pashtun or any Tajik or any Hazara who became Muslim, because I didn't come across any such example. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Fine. Thank you, Raviji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Raji.
The conversions happened centuries back. Now, not the recent one.
Yeah, not the recent. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Not the recent, at least in Afghanistan. Yeah.
Vilas Goleji.
Yes, thank you, ma'am, educating us on this topic, and thank you, Pragna Bharati, for bringing this type of lecture from a prominent person. मैं थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बोलकर अपनी बात थोड़ा स्पष्ट कर सकूंगा, but please give the answer in English so everybody can follow that. So क्या है कि अफगानिस्तान को हम उपगणस्थान सांस्कृतिक भारत हम पढ़ते आए हैं संघ में, विशेषकर आरएसएस के कैंप्स में, तो उपगणस्थान उसका नाम था। और इस्लाम के आने से पहले भारत से सांस्कृतिक संबंध रहे। गांधार के बारे में हम जानते हैं, गांधारी के बारे में जानते हैं, और बाद में फिर भगवान बुद्ध की मूर्तियों के संबंध में जो बामियान का अपने घटनाक्रम पढ़ा है, तो क्या आपको अपनी यात्रा में कुछ भगवान बुद्ध के अवशेष या बौद्ध मत वाले लोग मिले या कहीं? क्योंकि पुरातत्व और इतिहास दो ऐसी चीजें हैं जो अफगानिस्तान को फिर से भारत से जोड़े रख सकती है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ऐसे भी कुछ ट्रेसेस आपको मिले होंगे अपने अध्ययन के दौरान कि भगवान बुद्ध का विचार को, क्योंकि वो सारा ही क्षेत्र उससे ये था, विश्वविद्यालय तक्षशिला भी वहां से पास में था। तो क्या इस प्रकार के कुछ कनेक्शन भी मिले हैं आपको?
धन्यवाद सर। मैं अंग्रेजी में भी अपना उत्तर दूंगी, लेकिन धन्यवाद क्योंकि मुझे हिंदी में बोलना बहुत पसंद है, तो प्लीज मुझे आज्ञा दें कि मैं थोड़ा सा हिंदी में बोलूं, उसके बाद मैं अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद कर दूंगी। तो मेरे फील्ड वर्क के दौरान मुझे कोई भी व्यक्ति ऐसे नहीं मिले जिनका पुराना जो संबंध है वो बुद्ध धर्म से रहा हो। लेकिन हाँ, आसा माई की परंपरा में विश्वास रखने वाले, और इससे भी ज्यादा दूसरा जो पीर रतन नाथ जी का जो मैंने जिक्र किया, पीर रतन नाथ जी में आस्था रखने वाले और ये दावा करने वाले कि पीर रतन नाथ जी का जो समाधि स्थल है वो जलालाबाद में बना, उसको मानने वाले और ये दावा करने वाले बहुत सारे हिंदू और सिख कि उनके पुरखों की जो अंतिम संस्कार है उसके बाद उनका आना हरिद्वार कैसे होता रहा है पीढ़ियों तक। तो इस तरह से इतिहास निकालना ये अपने आप में बहुत रोचक रहा है। तो मुझे मेरे ख्याल से बुद्धिज्म को लेकर तो नहीं, लेकिन हिंदुज्म अपने मतलब सनातन की जो परंपरा है वो तो उससे भी बहुत पुरानी है। तो मुझे उससे भी ज्यादा पुरानी जो परंपरा है उसका तो प्रमाण आसा माई मंदिर के रूप में मिला है। ये मेरा अगला आसा माई मंदिर, तो 3 बिंदु मैं कह सकती हूँ जो है आसा माई मंदिर, पीर रतन नाथ जी जो गोरखनाथ की जो शैव परंपरा है उसके एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ पीर रतन नाथ हर्षिनाथ जी वो, और तीसरे सिखिज्म की स्थापना, सिखिज्म सुल्तानपुर में कैसे बढ़ा और फला फूला, ये 3 वीक। So in my response, sir, I would like to submit that I haven't found any example from any person from Buddhism. Yes, but from Sanatan Parampara, I think if we can connect the dot in future, I'm really very interested in exploring, and I really want to go to Afghanistan with the help. I'll be needing help from really prominent person and some prominent organization in terms, and of help from an archaeologist, and it can be developed as a project to explore archaeologically. I know it's a complex situation in Afghanistan, but maybe if we have a project and during course of time in next 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, if we can do something like that to explore through archaeology, and we have to support, we have history, and we have a long history of culture, trade, religion. So if we can connect the dots of Asa Mai, of Pir Ratan Nath ji and Sultanpur, I think our task will be very easy. And that is my future, current interest to develop this project. Thank you, sir. Namaskar. बहुत सवाल के लिए.
Thank you. Nagesh ji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a small question. I heard that there are many Jews and also there is synagogue there. What is the plight of Jews there? What happened to them? Did you ever get a chance to speak to any Jewish community or any Jew about that? I even know that there is a synagogue there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I know, but unfortunately, no, I haven't met with any Jews. I told you that the person who claimed that he has forefathers was Zoroastrian. So he also opened just, when I spent almost 1 year, I mean, he knew me well, and then he had trusted me. And he told me that not to disclose this to his fellow community person. I came to know there was a Afghan Christian community, and that also that was a kind of a bit of controversial, that became controversy in Delhi, because Afghan people, they were going to a nearby church in Lajpat Nagar, I guess, near Lajpat Nagar, between Lajpat and Greater Kailash, there was so they used to go to the church. The Afghan, actually largely the Afghan, that's what they claim. I have not really, I did not, when I want to, encounter this. And so the Afghan Christian claimed that they felt threatened by their fellow Afghan Muslim friends, because they said that the Afghan Muslims felt that they are converted, and they have converted out of their sheer, greed for being resettled in Western country. That's what the Afghan Christians claim. I cannot substantiate this, and I'll be really honest, I cannot substantiate this because the fellow Afghan Muslims did not really say this, that they are doing this. And I mean, and so yeah, this is only the one, example from, actually 2 examples of meeting persons belonging to other religion than Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs.
Thank you.
What about the synagogue that Nagesh is mentioning? Are you aware of synagogue in
Yes,
Afghanistan?
I'm aware of the synagogue actually, but when I was just in my recent
but there must be somebody taking care of the synagogue, right? Or
Yes. Prayers are going on as of now.
Yes. They are going on. But most of the Jews, they have left in 50s. That's what in my recent visit to the Hicksville, in my focus group discussion, just as a parallel discussion. It was not even a discussion, it was just a mention that almost all the Jews, they left in 50s. Almost all the Jews.
Yeah, little
50s
digression.
and late
I don't know.
50s and then, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the Hindko speaking people? Hindko?
No, I have not come across. I have heard of this, but not through my fieldwork. So I cannot claim. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Nagesh.
Thank you so much.
And Hamidji, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I don't have any question, but actually, I just want to suggest something to ma'am. If you want more information about, we still have 3 Sikhs there in my region. So if you want to find out more information about them, so I can facilitate the kind of communication between you and that those people who are living over there. So I think it will help you out in finding the long history of their living, especially in my region in Gardis. And I'm sure that they may have the picture of their residence in before the civil war in Afghanistan, and they may have much more information compared to me. So I think it's very good for your research as well, I think.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think I'll request in future if I'm and I'm really trying, I really want to go. So if I happen to go to Afghanistan, I'll be really asking you and requesting you for your help to connect me with those people, and maybe just guiding me to because I think if I don't go to Afghanistan, I will not be able to do justice with my work. So yeah, thank you, Ahmed.
Exactly.
Thank you, and be ready for for any future help.
Sure, man. Sure. Thank you so much. That was a nice discussion. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your feedback. Thank you so much for sitting for my presentation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Shukar.
Thank you. I think we will. I think with that we will end the Q&A. Before I just hand it over to Chandrasekhar ji for his vote of thanks Aparna ji, that was wonderful. You're doing a wonderful job in terms of researching all these things. And of course, like what you said, you would want to do more work on this. I'm sure there's a lot of work in that. I don't think it is sufficient for one PhD. We need lots of PhDs on this. And some of them you should yourself do, probably a couple of more PhDs on this. The Hindu past of Afghanistan is an area where, like what you rightly said, people do a lot of research. Tora Bora Mountains, for instance, there are shlokas in our literature which speak about somebody like Agastya going and doing penance there, and a lot of rishis and munis doing penance there. And so these are all areas where I think you need to look at the Indian literature and then connect it. Your source has been Afghanistan and Afghani refugees, but your source also has to be the Indian experience, the Bharatiya experience. I mean, our literature, our geography as spoken in our ancient literature. Then you won't connect there, probably then it makes a lot of sense. For instance, in your talk, you have not mentioned about Hindu Kush mountains. Yeah, so the very term Hindu Kush shows that place where Hindus are massacred. In Pashto, Kush means to kill. Even now we use Khud Kushi. To like suicide, you use the term Khud Kushi. So this is a place where God knows how many, thousands and thousands of Hindus were massacred. So this term Hindu Kush came by. So there is, of course, a very, very strong, what was the culture, what is the religion that existed pre-Islam or even pre-Buddhism? Obviously, it has to be something to do with Sanatana Dharma. The term Hindu itself is a very recent origin. So obviously, you had very similar belief systems, and that's an area where I think you should really focus on. Maybe you should dig a little deeper and then do a little research on that. That will be of great, immense help. Because generally, we have become apathetic to what is beyond Wagah border. It's all, you forget it. The successive governments have ignored all these things. Somebody like you who has taken up a wonderful project, I think you should take it to its logical conclusion, connect the roots, connect the, the historicity and our cultural linkages to all these places. As the Herat, for instance, I don't know if it's correct or not, but people say it's Hari Rat. I don't know, it's just out of the hat that somebody said, or Herat has some Hindu meaning behind it. I don't know. I'm saying all these areas, I think you need to really, if you could do it, it will be wonderful. And Pragya Bharati would always be, grateful to host, your thoughts. You can spread, you can share it among intellectuals, and your research will always be appreciated by us. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chandrasekhar for his word of thanks.
Yeah. Do I need to respond, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
No. I think it's not a kind of response. But I just want to share my own experience as a student, from doing sciences and then core statistics. So it has been quite an experience, and that also anthropology. And now I understand that these these very disciplines, especially anthropology, political science, and sociology, sociology and anthropology especially are very colonial subjects. So the way they wire our minds, and I really reopened that during my US visits. So it's not that I was not interested. Of course, the moment it has been a journey. It has been quite a journey of realization of and connection through the. I came to the question of connecting Bharatiya past and with the Afghani past, and making the picture really became very clear, and I could connect the dots since the period of Mahabharata. Actually, I have written to a couple of people in Germany, and I think submission of acceptance of project is also kind of, and you very much know, you very well know that Western academia, it has a politics. So I actually wanted to just, after my PhD, I wanted to develop this Asa Mai thing, and just tracing this thing to archaeology. It is it's a Herculean task. It's not a task of 1 or 2 or 3 years. Even if I can do my bit and I can add a significant comma in my lifetime, I'd be really happy. But I have written one project long back. I guess the moment I finished my PhD, so maybe. But yeah, I'm really for my recent research. I want to work on this Asa Mai thing as well as the Gurudwaras, the expansion of the not only expansion, the relationship of that and development of Gurudwaras cult in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
thank you
actually,
so much. And if anyone has any suggestion or any reference to enlighten me, to help me, please just drop your email. And my email is with the Prajna Bharati.
Yeah, thank you. Like what you said.
Thank you so much.
The Durand line is not recognized by Afghans.
Yes.
So let's for a minute consider that Peshawar is also a Pashtun land.
Yes.
Peshawar even today has Gor-Khatri temple. Gorakhnath temple is there in
Yes.
Peshawar even
Yes.
today.
Yes,
so the culture of Nathpanthis and Kanpata yogis and
Kanpata yogis.
It's all there very much in the Pashtun legacy.
Yes.
I agree with you, and we will look forward to your research on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Chandrasekhar ji.
Thank you, Gitaji. Dr. Aparna Malaviya, very good evening to you, ma'am. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for this quite an informative session. First of all, I think we need to commend you for choosing such a topic for your research project. You thought of them, so that's the reason why you went for such a project. Hats off to you, ma'am. And you did mention quite a couple of things, and basically everyone hears about refugees, then we feel bad for them because they had to leave their own homeland and then go elsewhere, and they don't know what to face and what is coming on their way. So, well, you did touch upon, and you mentioned, and we came to understand how UNHCR works and how they categorized in case of these Afghans into two categories, like ethnic Afghans and Afghan Hindus and Sikhs differently. And initially how India never recognized Afghans for refugee status, and how Afghan Hindus and Sikhs felt cheated. And also you said how they had tough time in India, as no organization or politicians really cared for them and all. We do understand. And you also mentioned the importance of Khalsa Jawans and Asa Mai. Good to know about that. And well, you did share your perspective in the academic point of view. It's really great. CAA, I'm sure, has been a respite for those few brothers there. And also now, lately, I think 2 or 3 days ago, you must have heard of this, in California, the House of Representatives introduced a resolution to resettle the persecuted Hindus and Sikhs from Afghanistan into US, and 7 others actually supported that. She actually mentioned, this is, I'm underlining, she mentioned that these Hindus and Sikhs, they have undergone systematic religious persecution, and also they were in existential danger. That's when she introduced that resolution. So if that comes through, these brothers across the border from Afghanistan, they would have another option. Through CAA, they have option 1, and now that is option 2. So, well, let's see what comes up, and I'm sure though there are very few left, like you mentioned, let's hope all the best for them. Thanks for sharing so much information, ma'am. We look forward to have you on our dais once again. I thank you with this. And also all the audience, I would like to thank for logging in and supporting us. Thanks once again.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Namaste and Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Dhanyavad, Bharat Mata ki Jai.